Okay, guys, you're getting ready to be at a point where you can write your newly revised explanation of your newly revised tree. So before we do that, let's get to a sample, a little practice assignment that should help you out, especially when you're organizing your explanation. So I have this question for you. It says, how do we explain the relationships in this tree? And I've given you a tree where you see various types of mammals. So on the left, you have monotremes, which are egg laying mammals. In the center, you have marsupials, which are pouched mammals. And towards the right portion of the image, you have all the way from elephants, armadillos, whales, rodents, and primates. If you look towards the bottom or the root of the tree, you'll see a label that says ancestral mammal, and that would be where your common ancestor of all these mammals would exist. In this case, it's just some ancestral mammal. We don't know what it is. So let me take you to another document where I have provided a breakdown of how you're going to do your explanation and also a sample explanation. So on this document, you guys at the top, you should have this image where it says explanation equals claim plus evidence plus reasoning. So let's talk about these three pieces just really briefly. Your explanation should have all three in the end. So the claim should be where the group goes on the tree. The traits, which would be behaviors, physical, or like even structural, so inside the body or outside the body, what you can see, that would be your evidence. So again, evidence is traits, which are behaviors and physical characteristics. And then lastly, reasoning, and that is what the claim and evidence mean. So what does it all mean? You should have all three of these parts in your explanation. And I provided a sample where I have all three of these parts for you. So I'm going to walk you through that, and I'm going to teach you guys how to pick out these pieces before you write your own explanation with all three pieces. So the sample explanation is written in my words, which means it sounds like me, a teacher. I've also chosen to add some extra information in here for you since mammals are one of the groups on your tree. So I did it to help you as well, and it's some information you might want to use for your own tree. And you can add it to your evidence that you have already collected. So here we go. Let me read this to you guys. It says, monotremes, like the platypus, are the only egg-laying mammals and therefore the outgroup in this tree. Although they do share a common ancestor with the other mammals, they are least like the other mammal groups, which instead give birth to live young. Marsupials, such as the koala, make up the next branch on the tree. As pouched mammals, they give birth to offspring that are not fully developed. The additional gestational time in a mother's pouch suggests marsupials are related to the majority of mammals today, but do not belong on the same branch of the tree. The remaining branches of the tree are made of placental mammals, a group of organisms that give birth to live young after having provided nourishment to the developing embryo via an organ called the placenta. The placenta allows mothers to provide nutrients to their offspring through their own blood supply. Elephants, manatees, and aardvarks branch off separately from the placental mammals, likely due to eating habits. All three are herbivorous, meaning that they eat plants. Because of this difference, elephants, aardvarks, and manatees are not as closely related to the remaining placental mammals. Furthermore, we can hypothesize that sloths, anteaters, and armadillos branch off the tree because of their insectivorous eating habits. That means they eat insects. This fact suggests that armadillos, anteaters, and sloths are more closely related than the herbivores to the last two groups of placental mammals. We propose that carnivorous mammals, toothed whales, rhinoceroses, horses, bats, and shrews branch off the tree next. It is possible that this is due to similarities in bone structure of their forelimbs. Those are their front legs. The similarities that exist in the bone structure, which are made of homologous structures, imply that these species are less closely related to the ancestral mammal at the root of the tree and more closely related to the last group of organisms on the tree: rodents, rabbits, tree shrews, and primates. This final branch of species all have sharp front teeth, likely used for eating meat. On this tree, these carnivorous organisms are the least closely related to the common ancestor. Although this is so, they do share the basic traits of mammals. They are warm-blooded, have hair, give live birth, the exception is the monotremes, and nurse their young. So that's my sample, and I know it sounds long, but this is what the end product of yours should sound something like. And you should notice that there are numbers in this paragraph. So there's 1 through 6, I believe. And each one of those I've numbered to make your next task a little easier. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to pick out the claim and the evidence and the reasoning. So let me just review really quickly what you're looking for, and then your job is to, with your group, go through and pull out these pieces. So again, your explanation should include all 3 of these things: claim, evidence, and reasoning. Your claim is where the group goes on the tree. Your evidence should be your traits, which should be either behaviors, things the animals do, or physical characteristics. And your reasoning is what the claim and evidence mean about these organisms. And think evolutionary relationships in this case. So I'm going to switch to another document, and I may go back to this one as well. So you should also have this document attached to your little 2-page packet. It says sample tree, claim, evidence, and reasoning, or I abbreviated it CER at the top. It restates the task, which you have on your big packet. And again, your task is to build a phylogenetic tree and then to explain it. So on here you have a graphic organizer, and for each section of the graphic organizer you have a section for claim, a section for evidence, and a section for reasoning. So each claim should be backed up or supported by evidence, and it should be explained through reasoning. If you notice in the purple, I have some information already written on there, and I got this information from the very first paragraph of the sample explanation on this page. So it goes monotremes like the platypus and all the way through instead give birth to live young. So I labeled it to make it a little bit easier with your claim so you knew exactly where I was getting the information from. What I would like you to do is I would like you to read this sample explanation, and for each branch of the tree, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 branches, which means we should have 6 claims. We should have 6, groups or accumulations of evidence for each of those claims, and we should have the same for reasoning. So again, I'm asking you now to go through this document, and you are going to figure out through my sample what is the claim, what is the evidence, and what is the reasoning that I have given in my writing. So as an example, for monotremes, I said my claim was monotremes are the outgroup. An outgroup is the group that is most different from everything else. So the outgroup is the thing that's not like anything else, just like we in the lamprey in our notes. So that's called the outgroup. That's the actual term for it. So my claim is that monotremes are the outgroup, or they are least like other organisms. You can see that I wrote that in this first part right here. My evidence to say that they are the most different, or that they are the outgroup, was that they are the only egg-laying mammals. And I wrote that in the first sentence again. So they're the only egg-laying mammals. That's the evidence I have to say that they are the most different. Lastly, my reasoning. So what it all means is that they share a common ancestor with the other mammals, monotremes do, and that they're least like all of the other mammal groups. So this is what what it all means, what the claim and the evidence means. What it means that they're the outgroup and that they're the only egg-laying mammals. It's the so what of this. And again, that is they share a common ancestor with other mammals. And then I also said they are least like other mammal groups. So in order to have a great explanation, you need to have all three pieces. You need to have the claim, you need to have the evidence, and you need to have the reasoning. So before you begin, what I would like you to do is go through my sample and find all of my claims, find the evidence that I use, and find my reasoning so that you can be able to do yours. Here's your document. So I'm scrolling through your document. I believe I have the timer set up for 10 minutes. So your substitute will gauge the time, but about 10 minutes should be all that it is because all you're doing is identifying claims, evidence, and reasoning for this. Good luck.